Welcome. Why is it so important to know if you have low self-worth? Low self-worth is the cause of so many life struggles. People pleasing, depression, anxiety, addiction, abuse, victimization, eating disorders, criticism, and so much more grow from the seed of low self-worth. How do you know if you have low self-worth? Great question. In this video, we will go over the 7 signs that are proven indicators you experience low self-worth. Take a self-check to see if any of these apply to you, and let me know in the comments which one is the one that's the most problem for you. As always, before we get started, I have a trivia question for you. So you can guess what you think the answer is and post it in the comments. And at the end of this video, I will give you the answer so you can compare it to see how you did. Here we go. Trivia question for this video is, out of 100 women surveyed, what percentage of women claim to have high self-esteem? Let me say that again. Out of 100 women surveyed, what percentage of women claim to have high self-esteem? Put your answer in the comments, and at the end of this video, I'll let you know how you did. Hi, I'm McCloskey, personal development and wellness specialist. We create a pathway of tools and encouragement for women to thrive while alive. If you are new, or even if you're returning and you haven't done it yet, make sure that you subscribe by pushing the button below and click the bell to be notified every time a new video is available. It is great to have you here. Let's take a look at the 7 signs that prove that you are experiencing low self-worth. So the first sign is self-critical. Have you ever just thought about or looked at or even paid attention to how much you say about you? So what do I mean about that? Well, anytime that you're alone, listen to what you say about yourself. Anytime that you do something that isn't meeting your expectation or meeting someone else's expectation, listen to what you say about yourself. Anytime you make a mistake, what do you say about yourself? A lot of times when we're by ourselves, we have a lot of mind chatter going on. And that is a good, when you listen to it, see, the problem is that most of the time we don't listen to what's going on inside our mind. It just rolls around and around like a tape, and it just plays over and over and over. And so often you don't even know what you're saying about yourself. And like I said, if you look at a mistake that you've made, think about, what did you say about yourself? Did you say you're stupid? Did you say you'll never get this? That is being self-critical, and that is such a good indicator of low self-worth, because when you don't feel good about yourself, those are the things that you're going to say. The crazy thing is how many times would you say something like that to somebody else? Would you talk to somebody else that way? And yet here you are day after day saying these things to yourself. The crazy thing is that we can't get away from ourselves. We're stuck with us. So if you are self-criticizing yourself, you're going to hear it all the time. And like I said, sometimes you don't even know that you're doing it. Number 2 is overly impacted by others' opinions. So this plays into the first one, because if you have other people who are criticizing you as you were growing up, maybe when you got a job or when you got married or when you had kids and your mother-in-law criticized you, or you have what you think is a friend and they're criticizing you all the time, that can be very damaging to you. And we take that in as, this is who I am. Now, the thing is that when you hear something over and over and over again, yes, you are going to start believing it unless you fight it. Again, sometimes we don't even know it's happening. Like we don't even realize that the seed is being planted. And so you really have to pay attention. This is why I talk about all the time about being conscious. We need to be conscious about what's going on in our life, because 95% of the time we are living in our subconscious mind, which means that these tapes are playing and we don't even recognize that that's what's going on. That is living in your subconscious mind, not having to think about. So think about this. When you are driving a car or riding a bike, do you think about everything that you're doing in the car? No, because you have done it so many times, you don't need to think about it. You're living in your subconscious mind. So to live in your conscious mind means that you would purposely think about what you're thinking about. And when other people criticize you, you start to take that in like it's gold, like it's truth. Not everything that everybody says to you is true. So often, hurt people will hurt people. Or maybe a better way to say it is wounded people will wound other people. And not that they purposely do it, some do, but not everybody does. And so when somebody says something to you, you have to have some things to combat that lie, to fight up against it. Now, not all criticism is bad. We know that. There is criticism that can be good. This is the rule that I have lived by for a very long time. And that is, if somebody criticizes me, I try not to take it personal. I take a step back. I look at what they say and I ask myself, is there any truth in this? But the problem is that when you have low self-worth and somebody criticizes you, it builds upon that low self-worth. So sometimes when somebody says something to you, you take it as truth when it really isn't. And it's hard to distinguish the difference. This is when it's really good to have somebody to talk to and be able to run things through and say, hey, so and so, or you don't even have to tell them who it is because that might be gossip. But you could say, you know, someone told me that I am this or I do this, and that, and I took it very personal. Do you see truth in it? Now, the person you ask should be someone who can speak truth to you. Because if it is something that you're doing or something that needs changed, well, you need to hear the truth. But if it's just someone who's wounded, who is living out of their woundedness, then it is something that you've got to try hard not to absorb in and take it as its total truth. Number 3, too desperate for approval. It is interesting how some of these go hand in hand. We want people to approve of us. If you listen to the videos on people pleasing, you would see where I had said that, you know, when we're young children, we are taught to get the approval of our parents. But then as we grow up and we turn 18, all of a sudden people pleasing is wrong. Well, as a child, we want the approval of our parents, our teachers, our authority figures, because when we get their approval, it makes us feel good. We know we're doing good. We want to do good. The thing is that if you are always looking for other people's approval, you are going to be lost, empty, because not everybody's going to approve you. Not everybody's going to show you approval. And you will be disappointed. You will have your moments where you are just really disappointed. Now, don't get me wrong. It feels really good to hear someone appreciate you. And it feels really good when someone says that you do a good job. And there are some personalities that they need to hear that, not because it pumps them up and makes them their head really big. It's because they need to know that they're doing a good job so they can keep doing it. What we're talking about here is seeking someone's approval to the point where you're a slave to how people feel about you. Seeking the approval of others will leave you empty because not everybody's going to approve you. And you trying to get that from people is like you trying to get your cup filled by people who have no water to pour in it. They're desperately trying to get their cup filled and they don't have anything to give to you. So you walk away disappointed and feeling very empty. Number 4, unhappy with or negligent of appearance. So you can think that who you are or the way that you feel good about yourself is because of how you look. And if you don't look good, well, then you're not good. Self-worth is one of those things that you look at yourself and you say, yes, I am worth something. And sometimes we would determine that on how we look. But what happens if we gain weight? What happens if we lose weight, too much weight? What happens if we're in a car accident and it messes up our face? What happens if somebody looks at us and calls us a name that is degrading and we take that as, yep, that's how I look? Your appearance is not who you are. You basing who you are and your worth on your appearance is going to leave you in a place where you will always be seeking it out. You will always be looking to other people, just like the approval of other people. You will be looking for that approval because you look at yourself and you say, you know what, I'm ugly, or I'm fat, or I'm no good. No, your self-worth is not based on your appearance. And sometimes what happens is we will not do some things to, have you ever, okay, so let's just do this. Have you ever been depressed? What happens when you're depressed? Do you neglect doing some things? Maybe you don't wash your hair, you don't get a shower, you don't get dressed, maybe you're in your PJs all day. Okay. So and you're going to hear me say this a lot throughout all these videos, there is a healthy balance. While I've worked with people, I began to see how some people will go from way over here to way over here because they didn't want to be here. This produced things that they didn't want in life, or they didn't like who they were here, so then they went way over here, and this was just as detrimental as this over here. So we have to find that happy medium. And in your appearance, if you are wanting to look good because it makes you feel good and it has nothing to do with your self-worth, then there's nothing wrong with that. But if you base your whole worth on how you look, there is something wrong with that. And if you keep going through this series, I'm going to tell you different things that you can do that will help you with your self-worth. So hang in there and look for the videos in the next couple weeks because this is a series and we're going to go through some of that. The 5th indicator is unable to set boundaries. When you have low self-worth, it feels almost impossible to set boundaries because that means that you will have to enforce them. That also means that you will have to tell somebody else what your boundary is. And if you watch the people-pleasing videos, we talked a little bit about confrontation and how people who struggle with people-pleasing, they don't like confrontation. They don't like conflict, so they avoid it at all costs. Well, here, when you have low self-worth, you will not even have boundaries because it means that you're going to have to state what that boundary is. That could cause a conflict or a confrontation, and then you might have to enforce the boundary because boundaries are no good without consequences. So you have to have consequences set up and in place. and then you have to enforce them. If somebody tries to walk over that boundary, you have to be able to say, hey, wait a minute here. And that can be really hard for people, especially people with low self-worth, because it's just too much. They don't feel good about themselves. And when you don't feel good about yourself, it is hard to be bold when you need to be bold. You don't feel like you are worth being able to do that. You don't feel like you're worth fighting for yourself. So being able to set boundaries is almost impossible for someone who has low self-worth. The sixth indicator that you have low self-worth is ashamed of your background. Maybe you look at your past and maybe you've made some mistakes, or maybe you were brought up in a home that it was a low income home, or maybe you had parents that you were ashamed of, and you look at that and you say, that is who I am. When I work with women, one of the first things that I address is your past is not who you are. I will have women put that on an index card and hang it on the refrigerator, on their mirror, in their office, wherever they're going to be, so that they can see and remind themselves that their past is not who they are. So let me ask you this. When you look at your past, are you ashamed? Is that trying to tell you who you are? I hope not. And if it is, hang in with these videos, because I want you to see that it doesn't have to be that way. What goes on in your past is in the past. It doesn't make you who you are. Now, have you made some mistakes? Sure, so have I. Do you wish you would have done things differently? So do I. But that is not who you are. You are worth so much more than the mistakes you made. Sometimes, and this is an excuse, it's just a fact, that sometimes our past creates an environment for us to make certain decisions that maybe we wouldn't have made if we didn't have that past. For instance, if you grew up in an abusive home, you probably made some decisions along the way that you would have never made had you not been raised in an abusive home. If you've been sexually abused, there are, those kind of environments or those situations really lay heavy on us. They cause a lot of shame. Women are just bogged down with shame and guilt, and it creates the low self-worth. And those environments do not have to continue to tell us who we are. So if you have had those situations in your past, I want to just ask you, are they affecting you? Are they telling you that you are worthless, that you are no good? Are they telling you that you are just trash to be thrown away? Or did you have situations maybe in school where you had a bully, someone that was bullying you, and the things that they did to you and said to you, or even just the fact that you had a bully, does that say to you that you're no good, that you can't be loved, that you're unlovable? I understand that because I had that one. Growing up in an abusive home, I had this underlining belief that was the root of a lot of things that was going on in my life, that I was unlovable. Your past is not who you are. Hang in there, and we'll look at more. What is your self-worth? If it's not based on those things, what is it based on? Number 7 indicator is avoiding taking risks. If you have low self-esteem, you're not going to take a risk. That is, to step out there is just too much, because it will put you in a place of being vulnerable, and being vulnerable with low self-worth, not happening. When you have low self-worth, you pull in, you try hard not to do anything that's going to validate the fact that you are worthless. And therefore, you miss out on some things because you will not step out there. You're afraid of what is going to happen. You're afraid of the unknown. Pretty much all of us are afraid of the unknown. But when you have low self-worth, you won't step out of the comfort zone. You stay in that comfort zone because that is what keeps you in that place of, well, at least here, I don't have to worry about feeling vulnerable. At least here, I don't have to not know, because it's kind of a control thing. I don't have to know what's going to happen because at least here I'm okay. You're going to miss out on so much. If you have low self-worth and you are afraid to step out, you are going to miss out on so much. And other people are going to miss out too. After discussing these 7 signs that prove you have low self-worth, which ones can you relate to? If you could eliminate one, which would be the first one that you would work on and why? Let me know in the comments. Now, Maxwell Waltz has a quote that says, low self-esteem is like driving through life with your handbrake on. Think about that. Have you ever, riding a bike, have you ever tried to go forward and have your handbrake on at the same time? What happens? You don't get anywhere. That's the same thing with low self-worth. As you are trying to move forward in life, it is really hard for you to get anywhere when you have low self-worth. And low self-worth will affect every area of your life. Now the answer to the trivia question. Out of 100 women surveyed, what percentage of women claim to have high self-esteem? Are you ready for the answer? It's 12%. That's only 12%. How did you do? Were you close? I had mentioned that low self-esteem or low self-worth is the root cause of people-pleasing. And though we recognize it, what do we do about it? If you're tired of running yourself to exhaustion and want tools to help you break free from people-pleasing, get your copy of Time for You, 5 Simple Habits to Eliminate People-Pleasing. Like this video if it was helpful to you and pass it forward by sharing it to others. I guarantee that there's someone who needs this information. Look for the People-Pleasing video series by clicking on the link. Be sure that you join the Thrive While Alive membership group for helpful tools, encouragement, and support. Keep moving forward to thrive while alive, and I'll see you in the next video.